question and answer period for a little bit. Venerable, thank you for that. That was precious. Questions? Nora, could you pass this around, please? Would you be so kind? Thank you. Elbow advice.
About 2 weeks ago, there was a opioid summit at the White House, and I'm wondering if we have any news from that. I think Chad was a good person to ask.
Yeah, Chad would probably be the best answer, unless you all are.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I want to thank you for having this. It's wonderful to see addiction in sort of Buddhist terms. I struggled a lot in 12-step with the idea of God, and they say all they want to. God, as you understand Him, choose your own higher power, but then it seems like they turn around and talk about a very Judeo-Christian kind of traditional religion, which I appreciate hearing what everyone said. A quick statement that I wanted to make is that from my perspective as somebody who, I was in a treatment center for 3 months for food addiction, where basically they tried to explain to me that food addiction was not a thing, that I needed to learn moderation, that I needed to learn how, to have fun with food, and I wondered if they'd say that thing to a cocaine addict or a heroin addict or an alcoholic. As I'm eating, 15,000 calories a day and eating out of my garbage can and driving around spending all of my money on massive quantities of food and abusing my body. Because the thing is that, opioid addiction and cocaine addiction and heroin and alcoholism and even gambling addiction, they're big and they're explosive, and you kill people or you kill yourself or you lose your house and your whatever. And food addiction is so subtle, and it's everywhere, and it's cheap, and it's available, and it's expected. In my program, what we call from Halloween to New Year's, it's an orgy. It's a food orgy. People don't say, let's get together and go to the park. They say, let's eat at Starbucks and have food and coffee, And with the rising, deaths in all of the drugs and everything else, compare those numbers to heart attack, to diabetes, to all of that, all of those things. Because like the gentleman was saying, it's not always, they don't put on a death certificate diabetes caused by obesity. By the year 2050, 1 in 3 Americans will have diabetes. And now they're talking about new ways they have to treat fatty liver disease in children, which 50 years ago was not a thing. So again, I like that everyone included all addictions. That's something that's great, because again, the opioids, it's a horrible thing happening to our country, but it's also very high profile. And I think that the food addiction, which has always been with us and people are getting heavier and more unhealthy, also needs to be addressed. Thanks.
I've got a lot of patients who come through that have a dual diagnosis, and some have bulimia, anorexia, body image issues. I think the thing that I've found that, and I would have to say that in the field that I'm in, my compulsivity has benefited me in a lot of ways from personal experience. So, the people that I visit with and talk to, I think one of the most difficult things about that that I find is that it feeds an insulative factor to us to separate us from the emotional issue of interaction socially. That I've found a lot of patients that have gotten to a point where they feel that it's too much of an issue for them to continue to concentrate on their body image. And so they've satisfied a need by overeating and building an insulatory space around them and the things that bother them. And so I talk to my groups sometimes about a woman that I had an opportunity to work with that had made an irrational belief about a statement that her mother made to her when she came home in 5th grade that said she was making cookies, and she said, if you eat those, you're going to get fat and nobody's going to love you. And she heard that from her mother, and her irrational belief was, if my mother doesn't love me, nobody's going to love me, and I can't get fat. And so she struggled with that for many years, and then when she was 45, she just said, I gave up. I insulated myself, and so and what she decided to do was she made a decision with the work that she did with me, and she basically said, I can't eat anymore. And I said, that doesn't work. It's not about I can't do drugs, I can't get, it's not about, anybody in this room who's used can continue to use if you want to. It's not, there's no you can't, but you make it, you say, I choose not to. You empower yourself with that choice. I'm not saying, like Nancy Reagan, just say no. I'm saying you find within yourself that you're worthy of it, and you decide, and you have to constantly be looking at how am I taking care of myself, the self-care piece. And I think a lot of that has to do with I've abandoned me. And it has a lot to do with all of our drugs. I've lost in touch with who I am. I've become a coat rack with coats on it. You can't see me anymore. So it's reconciling with yourself, and it's a painful piece of work. I do Gestalt transactional analysis with a mirror, and I have patients who can't look in that mirror. So I just ask them to say hello. How long has it been since you greeted yourself? How many times do you wash your face? How many times do you brush your teeth? How many times do you shave? How many times do you put your makeup on and you've never recognized the person in the mirror? So I think it starts with us and creating that relationship within us. And I think therapy helps. I think to have somebody that can engage you and give you that kind of support around it is extremely helpful. I don't think we can do any of this alone. And I think it's a disservice for anyone to say that's not a disease. Gambling is a disease. Compulsive buying is a disease. Compulsive sex is a disease. Addiction is a template from drugs and alcohol that overlays all these other addictive behaviors. And they're all issues. And so we have to stop looking out here and start looking in here. We're always looking for that perfect formula. If you read Shel Silverstein's The Perfect High, anybody read that? So we're searching for things that don't exist.
For us, the process of addiction is very tricky, right? We believe recovery begins with renunciation and abstinence, but you can't renounce eating. Right? You can renounce binge eating, but you can't renounce eating. So, but again, it comes down for our program. It comes down to practicing mindfulness, the 4 aspects of mindfulness. And through that daily practice, you start to recognize the emotions, the thoughts, the physical sensations that are arising. And again, it's not an easy road, especially when you have to feed your demon 3 times a day. So.
I think what I saw to kind of add to what you just beautifully said, what I saw while doing treatment was 2 particular times. One particular time I was doing what we would call intervention. They brought this mother, 2 children in because they discovered that the father was alcoholic. The son was about 6'2" and weighed about 700 pounds. The daughter, who they found in the fetal position one day, was anorexic. So, for me, oftentimes, to generalize things, I began to discover that not only was alcohol and other substance abuse, there was a twist sometimes. There was a twist, what I call a twist in DNA. They didn't pick it up in alcohol. They picked it up in foods. And I was doing a marketing thing one time over at Mellon Croc, and I was shuffling papers. And a man came up to me and said, I'm glad you all came today. And I said, sir, no problem. He said, you know, my father, he was a horrible drunk. He beat me and on and on and on and on. And he said, but I never drank. a drop in my life. And I said, sir, that's wonderful. I looked up, and he was a man that was about 6'2" and weighed all of about 500 pounds. He didn't drink, but it came out of his eating. And I think these addictions, as Steve pointed out when I was waiting there, there's going to be constant, which is a template. It's a template that's going to go in different places in different ways. And the whole family therapy thing is about, to me, is about trying to stop using the family therapy model, trying to stop it at some time inside the history, so that the next generation, I think Chad brought that out too nicely, that the next generation is not going to pick up as best we can through awareness, mindfulness, other strategies, to not leave them with this legacy. And by being responsible, being aware, admitting, accepting, and acting responsible, you can stop some of this stuff, and you can teach some of this stuff to the people next to you, coming down the road and say, I'm aware of this. And what I began to see in treatment over and over and over again was that people who had been in recovery, especially around my age, 60s and 70s, but at least that had 5 or 10 years of sobriety back then, were teaching their kids already, you're in danger. So by doing that, again, compassionately saying, look, you're at risk for this. We're helping the next generation, not recognizing it, not doing anything about it. You're setting them up.
So in treatment, one of the greatest things that we have to work on is identify our feelings. And that's something that we struggle with because we only know a few. And so when we're talking about food addiction or substance abuse addiction or any addiction, we don't distinguish that feeling. And so when that feeling arises, what happens is we want to escape from it. So in the concept of moving away from it, we choose things that give us that good feeling, that high, that euphoria, that I want more of that and less of what I'm feeling. And so when we talk about mindfulness and we talk about utilizing that concept of learning to be in the moment, to accept that feeling, allow it to come and allow it to pass, that it won't last always, it's temporary. And so the idea is if I can make it through that moment, but I have to be in the moment, I have to feel it. You know, I have to sit in that spot and understand that when I feel that, it's okay. And then I move on and do something else. And that's where that distraction and learning other techniques and allowing it to happen allows us to get through the recovery process. And most of the time what we do is we don't want to endure that. And that's where we escape. So one of the biggest things I always say is learn more language when it comes to feelings. Because once you start to give language to what you feel, you then will allow yourself to recognize it and not run from it. Say, oh, that's my gut, I feel that. You know, when we're talking about relationships with people, when I get anxious or I'm misinterpreting something, oh, I feel that. Why did I feel that? Start to ask, why am I feeling that? Where does that come from? And then what it allows us to do is to learn to sit in that moment, recognize it mindfully, be present with that moment, and then work through that by either journaling. That's journaling and writing is a mindful technique. If you turn off everything and you be present and you write whatever comes out, you allow any emotion that comes out and you go back and read it when you're in that good spot, that good headspace. We start to learn that we have feelings that we run from. And in order for us to acknowledge those, we have to be mindful.
I was just wondering if there was anyone working on maybe starting one of these meetings in Illinois. I drove over last night to the one in Brentwood, and I couldn't find a room, so I was inside of a church, and I got there, and so there was a church service going on, so I sat outside the church service and waited and asked anybody. Anyway, I mean, you know, but I just think I don't know, I know a lot of people in recovery in Illinois, and I've had some friends that have, you know, suffered and still suffering, and some that have passed, and I just think it'd be a really good place if, you know, I've never been to a meeting, but I'm really thankful for what you guys are doing.
Hey, yeah, if you go to the website, refugerecovery.org, it's on our flyers. You can search. I'm almost positive, there's at least one, I'm positive, in Southern Illinois, one refuge recovery meeting in
Carbondale. Well, it's in Carbondale.
Carbondale.
It's a little far.
Is that far?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. Say like Alton, Granite, it's.
Oh, shit. I don't know, sorry.
The answer is it's peer-led, right? So you can start a meeting. We don't have like a bank of people that can just go start meetings. I wish we did, but we don't. So I know there's a lot of people, if you want to talk to us afterwards, I'd be willing to give you all the information and support, but there's just not like a wealth of people that you just go, yeah, I'm going to go start one in Illinois. They're all peer-led, so if it's a passion of yours, we'll give you some ideas on how to find it and help you with the materials and tell you what you can do. And you might even have some of us show up. What we started to have was a lot of meetings pop up, and then the leaders those meetings had to go on, or they've had life circumstance, and then we weren't letting any meeting fail. So then we would start doing more meetings with the same people. And so it's peer-led. If you want to do it, we'd be happy to help you, but we just need people over on that side of the river that want to do it.
There's phone and online meetings too.
Yeah, there's
Run
also-
on the website. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Almost every day there's an in the rooms meeting at 8 a.m. and on some nights at 8 p.m. And then some of us watch events to stream Dharma teachings at 8 p.m. on many nights of the week. So
You can always get added to our Facebook group too. I think that is something that would be out more. You can like make it to our meeting. You can reach out to us that way.
and that's not the first time we heard that about that space. So you've got to go in and Zoom room 220. So I apologize for that.
I'm just gonna say, I'm from Illinois too, so I would help you with that if you'd like to. I'm the mom.
And let me know.
Yeah, where are you from in Illinois? Everettsville, and I'm Fairview, so
Very close.
that we're close. I'm a mom of an addict. He's in jail right now. He went to rehab in Florida, did fabulous, but had to go to court for old things that were haunting. So he's at SWIC, which is Southwestern Illinois Correctional, which used to be a Catholic high school that my husband attended. So he's going to be released soon, and I'm scared to death as a mom. I'm also a teacher at Southwestern Illinois College, which also goes by SWIC too. And I did an addiction program at a funeral of a young man. I was standing next to the president of the university, she also was family friends. And I just thought out loud and said, we've been on a 10-year journey, 8 jails, 8 rehabs. I wish I could share, and I'm a lover of Chad. Chad saved my son's life by telling me, have him arrested, you know, which was one of the hardest things as a mom to do. Thinking, oh my gosh, here's a dean's list, college graduate, making $100,000 a year at 26, and I'm gonna have him arrested. And my husband's a federal engineer. He does like top secret projects. I really thought, am I destroying our whole family's life? Because I had visions, this was gonna be on the front page of the newspaper tomorrow, but it wasn't. Anyway, we had him arrested, that was years ago, got him into some treatment, and the biggest thing that helped was to get away from the friends. You know, he was working minimum wage in Florida and was the happiest that he had ever been. So, you know, it was kind of like that stigma of money kept him, oh, you got a good job, you can't leave, you know, and grandma kept bailing him out, and we cashed in his retirement, we cashed in our own retirement, which I can say that in this group, but you know, I can't say that in every group because people tell me how crazy I am. But I said, you know what, if your kid had cancer, you would do everything you possibly could. So anyway, thank you for having this. I get so emotional because, anyway, I started to say that when I stand next to the university president, I talked out loud and said, I wish I could share everything that I have learned about addiction and where to go for help. And she looked at me, it's Dr. Georgia Costello, and she said, I'm the president, I can make that happen. And so it's kind of neat to hang around in big circles. We did a program on addiction, and we did one in the day, one in the evening, and we had, you know, people like you guys in recovery come speak. We had moms that are my heroes that have lost children that talked, you know, about when they want to help others. And, you know, just if it makes a difference in one person's life, it's so worth it. So thank you, and I look forward to talking to you.
I have a comment towards that. For anyone, we talk about the stigma of mental health, and we talk about how do we break that cycle. Talk. In order for us to give voices to the situations that we're having and to have society understand, we have to talk about it. You know, if it's not, with people that understand, get away from them, leave them, surrender them. Those won't be the ones that you'll need to carry the message, but you'll have people in rooms like this, or you'll have people sitting at restaurants that's going through something. Say hello, how are you doing? You know, I'm a part of Refuge Recovery. This is what we do here. When we start to educate and we start to talk about things, and we build supports and we build people's awareness and knowledge. And so one of the biggest things, never be afraid to tell your story. That's one of the things that I encourage my patients that worry about going back to work and things of that nature. I say, you never know who's sitting next to you that's going through the same thing. So in a way, find your voice that speaks to you, that allows you to have power when talking about what you've gone through. Because it's a powerful thing to be able to share your story and be alive, or to be able to carry on a message of healing to somebody else. So definitely, I'm glad that this connection just had, because I have people asking, Chanel, I don't want to travel all the way to the city. I live in Illinois. We crossed the bridge to do treatment at your facility, but there's nothing like Refuge Recovery right in the middle. So for that to happen, I would love to be able to utilize that resource and be able to make sure that we're getting people that may not like the 12 steps set up. They may have an issue with God. They may be fighting a demon with spirituality, and they're not ready to deal with that yet, but they need people. They need that support. So I'm just happy to hear that connection, and I will make sure I will be held accountable to see it through, that we have something on that side, and that we continue to build that bridge, because we have to do that.
For all the patients that are admitted to Centerpoint Hospital, families are infinitely invited at any time they'd like to come on a Thursday evening. We have a 6:30 to 8:30 family support group that's run by a therapist. Candace Finan is my supervisor, and she runs that group. I used to do Tuesday nights, but I do a family support group ongoing on my unit with the patients involved. This one on Thursday night is without the patients, and so you can come in as long as you like. If you have someone that you're affiliated with or associated with, it's been in the program. So.
one of the things I'm thinking of too is that the Thai temple that I go to in Florissant, there's a lot of wives of Scott Air Force Base folks that come in that area there. If you do want to learn meditation, you can always come to us on Saturday night for free from 7 to 9, and the temple will teach you how to meditate, if that helps you. And there's not going to be any ceremonies or anything. They're just going to be teaching you to give a Dharma talk like the Venerable, and then they'll go right into teaching. And Dr. Concept does the translating. But feel free, if you're in that Illinois spot, to come join us, because we're just right over the river. Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't know, you read the article in New York Times, I posted on the website too. Like a young guy, in 6 hours, he overdosed 4 times. They allowed the journalist to follow around that family. It ruined the whole family. It's very depressing when you read that. They didn't have any good answer to it, except one sister got out of the same loop and doesn't want to contact with the family, only on occasion. She was an ex-drug user. That's the only one that was good thing about that article. Maybe you can shed light, what can you do when someone like I'm a physician, someone coming to tell me about a story, what should be the best way to guide them in that situation. Very depressing, like 6 hours, 4 overdose. They keep coming back, giving naloxone, and then he did it again with the patch. I don't know how you get that prescription patch.
Fentanyl patches.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're in, we figure it out as addicts. I'll use this.
You're all right.
I'm on?
Yeah.
If I had a good answer to that question, I wouldn't be poor. But I mean, looking back for me, I would use heroin for 10 years, on and off, try to get sober, other things too, like basically everything. And at some point it is the consequences and not being insulated from them. But it's also the mercy and compassion from others. Just the ability to look back. I believe that every sober